You know, because she went going blind.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Uribe is on her way, but I will start this meeting so we can get started pretty much on time. I'm Pat Bates. I'm mayor in the city of Altamont Springs and, well, co-chair, or I don't know what's my title.
You are vice chair.
Okay, that sounds good. I'd like to ask Ms. Blowers to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, I again remind all members that this meeting and all future TDLCB meetings are held in person. It's important for all members to be here. Oh, in order for us to have a quorum. Once quorum is reached in the room, votes cast by those joining virtually can be acknowledged. Members of the public are still able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. And here's your note. Wasn't that?
I know, that was phenomenal. Just trying to, I'm so sorry. Good
Well,
morning, everyone, and thank you, Mayor, and thank you for traffic in Orlando. And I'm sorry, were we just getting to?
Yep, just right there.
Okay, all right, she already asked everyone to make sure you turn on your phones. I mean, excuse me, your microphone before speaking and deactivate. But with this being said, I want to go ahead and the Quality Assurance Task Force report. We will hear from the July 23rd Quality Assurance Task Force meeting. Ms. Berry, you are recognized.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We had our QATF meeting on July 23rd. Very interesting meeting, I would say. We actually met off-site at the Operations Center for Link, and we did not have any action items on our agenda. So we had a report from Norm regarding the CTC update. And after that, it was a very short report, very interesting report, though you all will hear it today. But after that, we had an opportunity to tour the facility. And I must say that I was impressed just to see the process from beginning to end and you know how things work behind the scenes. We always hear the reports here, we ask our questions, but just to be able to see what happens at the facility, to me, that process flow was very interesting, from the training piece, those who are answering the calls, just how they schedule things in and out of the vehicles, how they're maintained. I thought, to me, it was very impressive, and I'm truly thankful for that opportunity. Now, I wasn't there by myself. Y'all do know that, right? So, so I had a few friends that were present with me. I think we had Mr. Zabriskie, we had Miss Cheryl, we had Miss Marilyn, we had someone else. Who else?
Miss Charlotte.
Miss Charlotte was there. Yes. And then we had Bessie. So yes, so did you all have any feedback regarding how you felt about the tour and what was happening?
I just thought it was wonderful and thank the staff for allowing us to come and observe.
Anyone else?
I've been on previous
Mm-hmm.
tours like this under previous people, and this is great, and they've got a lot of good technology, and it's just awesome to see how big it is.
Yeah.
And somebody's working somewhere on something all day,
Okay.
all night,
Yes.
and that's impressive. That's
Mr. Zabriskie?
Just very impressive and really very informative as well. Really appreciated the tour. Thank you so much.
Likewise, it
Okay.
was interesting, and I'm really like it that I can take it back to the dialysis community and share the experience, and it really helps me to have some insight about when there are issues. It makes it easier to explain, and I really enjoyed the whole process.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad. I think we all have the same sentiments. I think the thing that was most surprising to me, and if I knew it, I didn't remember, but I didn't realize they were open 24 hours a day. So that was interesting. So I just want to say thank you again. Mr. Joey Hagan, Norm Hinckley for allowing us to just have our meeting there, and also for the tour, because I think it brought a different perspective for those of us who were present. And that concludes our next meeting is October 29th, and that concludes my report.
Wonderful. I wonder if the rest of us, Norm, can come visit this fabulous tour because,
We knew.
I just won $100 because we knew that question would come.
Okay.
So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You know me now. so-
Donated to a good cause.
I do want to say, are we odd today? Like, it seems like we're tighter and farther. Okay, so I just curious. We are? Okay, so it is at my
We
mind.
did have some aesthetic improvements to the room, and so yes, we are further and a little bit tighter, but hopefully able to, for some of our larger committees, have more of them around the table, so.
Oh, I understand. Okay, I didn't know if it was just me. And then I like noticed Norm is farther away. Yeah. So,
Looks happier out there.
yeah, he can write notes and now we can't overlook his shoulder.
And Madam Chair, I think I just won $100 because I wanted to know who was gonna be the first to say something. And you said.
Well, y'all know me by now, so it's no surprise because when I came in, I had to squeeze by. So, all right, fantastic. With that being said, are there any other questions or comments? None seeing from Ms. Berry. Thank you for that report. And also, I would like to see that tour because that would be amazing for us. I want to move on now to our agenda review and announcements. Ms. Whittington, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. And thank you all for being here, whether you're joining us online or in the room. And we knew that there would be some interest after such an enthusiastic report from our QATF chair. We just want to say thank you to Norm and Joey and all of those who made it possible for us to be there. And yes, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, we will be back. So I'd like to welcome new member this morning, Yvette Reyes. Yvette is replacing Miss Diane Arnold. She's representing the economically disadvantaged. Rachel and I held an orientation session with Miss Reyes and Miss Nicola Norton, who's also here. She'll be serving as her alternate, and so they are here today. We also have several alternates who are in the room this morning. We have Miss Corey Blowers, who's here, Mr. Cartier Murrell, and I can't see that name tag. Yes. Okay, Jamie is here, but she's a normal member, and we have, I think that was it, right? Oh, and Ms. Jennings. See, Ms. Jennings is here for Ms. Estes, and she was the previous appointee, and now she's the alternate. So when we see her, it's like old times. So thank you for being here. And Ms. Hunter is here for Ms. Olds. I just want to call attention to a couple of things legislatively. Senate Bill 1380, which we kept you all up to date on as it was moving through the legislature. It's entitled Transportation Services for Persons with Disabilities and Transportation Disadvantaged. It was signed into law by the governor and became effective in May. It expanded the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged Board from 7 members to 11 members. There's a list of those members in your packet. The commission was scheduled to have an orientation for those members on yesterday, but due to the impacts of Hurricane Debbie, which closed their office earlier this week, they canceled that meeting and will be rescheduling it. One of the interesting things about this legislation that we think will work to our benefit is that the members are now allowed to have their meetings completely electronic, and anyone who is joining that meeting virtually counts towards a quorum. So previously, it was you have to have a physical quorum in the room, and then those who are joining virtually would be able to participate and be counted towards that quorum. Well, this makes a change, and with that change, if it's the commission opportunity to have that happen, we will be going back again. As you know, we've had a legislative priority for several years now to get the authorization for virtual meetings. And so we'll be bringing that up and saying, you know, if the commission can do it, let's start with those who support the commission. And so hopefully we'll be able to get that expanded to all of our committee meetings in the future. It also addresses some provisions for paratransit service contracts, including driver training responsibilities and requirements, reasonable time periods for requests, providing transparency with regard to the quality of service, and some things having to do with the competitive procurement. It also requires the CTD to establish model procedures for transportation service providers, and a couple of reports that are due to the legislature, one being from Qatar, the Center for Urban Transportation Research, that will be doing a report having to do with model policies and procedures or best practices, and the other from iStreet, which is Qatar's contemporary at University of Florida. They're required to deliver a comprehensive report having to do with technology. Both of those reports are due to the governor and the legislature in January, and so we look forward to seeing the outcomes of those. I mentioned that new list of members is in your agenda. And we'll keep you up to date on other appointments that are forthcoming that the governor will soon be making until that board is completely constituted. We are joined today by Ms. Gail Holly from FDOT. She's going to be making a presentation. She is remote today as she's in Tallahassee, but she's going to introduce the Safe Mobility for Life program. I attended a webinar on this program last month, and it was very, very interesting. And we wanted to start with an introduction here, and then Ms. Holly or someone from her team will be here in November to present a more comprehensive report to the community during that November public meeting. Speaking of the public meeting, we are still looking at a potential off-site meeting this year. We have held the Heart of West Lakes Wellness Center as a possible location for that meeting. They are willing to host us. What we're working through right now is the technology piece and making sure that we have the speakers and microphones for you all to use, which has some inflation to it since the last time that we have met off-site. And so we are working through that, and we'll make a final determination on whether that meeting is off-site or whether it will be here. And it's definitely going to come down to the finances of that meeting. And so now, Madam Chair and members, if I can call on Mr. Mike Wilson, who is going to come with our safety moment.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and good morning, board members. This go around for the safety moment, rather than give you some advice on how to be safe out there, we're going to talk about our Regional Vision Zero Action Plan, which we are close to the finish line on that. Before I get into the status of the plan, a little bit of overview of why we need this and how we move forward. What we found through our planning efforts is that 41% of our deaths are occurring in only 2% of our roads when it comes to traffic fatalities. So that's, it's a bad news, good news thing, and that at least we know where we can focus our efforts to really make a big impact on reducing crashes. Also, more than 40% involve some type of problematic behavior, whether it's distraction, intoxication, speeding, or aggressive driving. And so we target those behaviors and those locations, we can make a really big improvement in our safety problem. So how do we do that? Well, we have to make this an ongoing process when it comes to planning for safety. Continuing high emphasis on those high emphasis corridors, and continuing to analyze the areas where we have problems and how we can best counter those problems. We really need to have an ongoing focus on public outreach that's going to motivate behavioral change, which is not a simple thing, not a simple task, but it's something we have to work on. And then in the short term, we can do quick build projects that will improve safety, but you know, there are the bigger projects where we really need to rework the roadway in significant ways to bring the speeds down and mitigate the conflicts and severity. So our plan has just gone through its review, where it's gone out to the general public and committee members, et cetera, to give comments on the draft. So that closed out on August 2nd. Our consultants are currently updating based on the comments we received. And the plan will be going to our committees, advisory committees later this month, and then to our board for approval on September 11th. So in addition to the plan, there will be a declaration of how we are going to move forward, you know, our goal of reaching zero. So that concludes my presentation on our Vision Zero plan. I'd be happy to take any questions.
We do have a question, and I do have a question and comment too, but I'm gonna let you go first.
Thank you for that. I'm just wondering for the distraction, do you break it out? Like, do you know how much of that was from texting or using cell phone?
When it comes to crash reports, you know, officers have to be very careful about how they report on distraction.
Okay.
So unless they really have firm evidence that use of a smartphone was involved, you're not going to see that. So a fairly small number are actually allocated to that, but there's just the bigger pot of general distraction that officers can select from. So that's what we see in the data.
And Mike, we appreciate all, you've been working on this diligently and with the counties themselves. When we're talking about fatalities, are we talking just vehicular? Are we talking pedestrian? Are we talking combined? Can you share a little bit more information on that?
It's for all modes. Yeah. So, and about 25 to 30% of our fatalities do involve people outside of a automobile. So that will include pedestrians, bicyclists, scooters, and motorcyclists as well. We consider all of those to be vulnerable road users because they're not surrounded by a steel cage and all of those other safety mechanisms.
And I just wanted to share because I know I'm gonna only speak for Orange County, but I'm sure Seminole and Osceola County, we all have a Vision Zero that we're working on internally. And so, you know, FDOT has done a lot of work, and I'm proud to say, we have a road, Lorraine Bobo, who does the safety for FDOT, helped us get the funding. I have a road, Hoffner Avenue and Reddit Road. It's so heavy pedestrian that there's a Lynx bus that goes through the neighborhood, and that doesn't really happen much anymore, if you know. And it is where elementary, middle school, and high school kids get picked up to go to school to the surrounding areas. And we don't even have solid sidewalks because we have ditches. So we were having a lot of crashes. And now, mind you, once you come out of this neighborhood, across the street is heavy industrial, so semi-trucks. So it was a combination of disaster. Through the help of DOT and Lorraine Bobo and their team, I was able to get a light fixture put there. And normally, just so you guys know, it takes heaven and earth and spreading of the water to get things like that going. But if everything goes well, we will have that light up in 18 months. And if anybody knows transportation, that is like tomorrow, you know, comparatively. So this is how important and vital. And the reason why we were able to get the funding is because of the Vision Zero plan from the state all the way down. So they were able to get this plan put in instead of making it go on a list of priorities. We were able to get it funded because of that. So I just want you to know that it's in the weeds and it's things like that. And hopefully your electeds and your people in the community who are coming and saying, hey, look at us. So I encourage you to do that too and be very proactive. Because you don't realize how many sidewalks are not connected or not accessible. And we're not even gonna talk ADA. Okay, we're just gonna even talk just to get to one, okay? Until you really start honing in on that. And I have over the last month gone and walked streets myself where I've gotten complaints. And I've got the county fixing sidewalks where it was completely lifted because of oak trees, inaccessible because of ditches. And I will tell you all, there is nothing more humbling than walking past a cross of a pedestrian who has died when you're walking on a road, when you hear from a neighborhood that says, we need help. So thank you, Mike. And I don't know if there's any other questions or comments. Yes, absolutely.
I apologize. Can you remind me what the purpose of this is?
Well, it's to have a general plan for safety. What that does is it sets the groundwork for all of our future effort. So everything that we've learned through this plan, for example, will feed into our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is our more overall plan for transportation. And then that identifies the projects that move through the pipeline for funding. So that's the infrastructure side. And then there's also the ongoing effort of once we've identified the general trends and problems, how do we continue as a planning agency to address like I said, that behavior side of things, because there's a lot of work that's yet to be done. You know, we've just begun on that, but we've laid the groundwork for all of that.
The reason I ask is, the 41% of fatalities come from 2% of the roads. That happens. It's said and done, and that's the worst case scenario. But the second worst case scenario is when you are a victim and you have a permanent disability, brain injury, amputations, multiple orthopedic traumas, even spinal cord injuries. Those are permanent, and those take away financial opportunities for the individual itself, their families, because you're relying on caregivers. This state is horrible when it comes to supporting individuals with disabilities. So if you're looking at numbers, and I know when I go to DC or Tallahassee, politicians want to know what numbers there are, or what's it going to cost. You might want to look into that. There are state trauma organizations that can give you those numbers that might add to the fuel for your fire.
Yes. And we have, and our prioritization process is based on looking at fatal and incapacitating injury crashes. So we're going to look at strategies that may actually result in, perhaps may even result in more crashes, but reduce the overall severity so that we're not killing and having life-altering injuries for people when they crash. Obviously, we want to reduce crashes overall, but but the key point is that we prioritize crashes that have a great deal of energy, and we prioritize those that involve pedestrians, cyclists, because their crashes are much more likely to result in those life-changing injuries.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the update. We are now gonna, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Sorry. It is now time for our roll call and confirmation of quorum. Miss Rachel, will you please call the roll? No, it's not Rachel. I'm sorry, I'm reading the script and not looking up, so someone is in trouble.
That will be me.
Because I also called Mike, and I'm supposed to call him Mr. Wilson. Oh, there you go. All right, Miss Lisa.
Yes, good morning.
Here, but not Mike.
Baldwin,
Present.
Bates,
Here.
Berry, Blowers for Ford,
Present.
Campbell, Castano, Delano,
Present.
Here.
Present.
Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Thank you very much, Miss Lisa. We are now going to move on to public comments on action items. We will now hear from public comments on action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any member of the public wishes to comment or are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized. If you are joining us using your phone only, please dial *9 on your phone keypad to be recognized. Do we have anyone joining us this morning virtually, Miss Lisa?
I do not see any hands raised on the virtual side, and I have not received any speaker cards.
Wonderful. You just helped me skip 3 lines. All right. So now at this time, we will move on to the action items. We have one action item today at tab 1A of your agenda are the minutes from the May 16th, 2024 LCB meeting. Are there any, and as you review those, and hopefully you've had a moment to see there, are there any questions, concerns, or corrections that need to be attributed? If not, I would entertain a motion, please.
Move approval, Bates.
Second, Baldwin.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to our presentations, we have 2 today. Our first presenter is Mr. Norm Hot Seat Hinkling with our Community Transportation Coordinator update. And Mr. Norm, it wouldn't be me if I didn't add something in there. So
Absolutely.
Norm, we're appreciative of you always being here and you are recognized. Thank you.
Admittedly, I wasn't quite sure where you were going with that, Madam Chair, but you covered well. So. I will not deny, confirm or deny, so. So anyways, it's a pleasure to be here in front of you all today, and it does seem a little further away, but that's okay. We'll speak loud and we'll make everything very intimate as to what we're doing. So here's the table of contents of the items that we are covering. And we'll talk, as we have in the past, about the trip demand, the performance, customer service, something that we've added. It was very interested to the Quality Assurance Task Force was the service costs and funding. We'll talk about some of our opportunities in a summary and then questions. I did leave on here the tour. I'm glad I did because I'll just keep that on there because at some point we'll schedule that for the future because I think you'd all enjoy that. So as an overview, our trips continue to go up. Over 2023, we're about 9% higher than we were this time last year. On-time performance is improving. Credit to the team. They're got a real good positive trend there, and you'll see that. We still have a lot of calls coming in, but I think you're going to be pleased with the performance and the number of calls being answered. Again, just to let everybody know, 40% of all of our calls are calling for that ETA. Where's my ride? Where's my trip? When's it going to be there? Are we sure it's going to be there on time, etc. The cost of services. Virginia talked a little bit about some of the new legislation, and we thought, well, we'll start kind of showing and just kind of give you an idea of the cost. And that we recognize this is the taxpayers. This is a very generous TD program that is provided. We're proud to do it, but there is a cost to it, and it says something about the community when they say we're willing to take on that cost. So it's something to be mindful of, but also something to be proud of. And then the paratransit fleet, just where we're at with the maintenance and the new vehicles that we're bringing on. So again, I would just plant your seed. We have a tour. I would really hope that we could do it after we start receiving some of the newer vehicles so you can see those and see the vehicles that we're going to and actually renewing that fleet. So as far as the trip demand, there are the numbers. That equates to that 319,784 equates to about a 9%, a little over 9% increase over the same time last year. That's pretty standard now that we've well past COVID and all those that we're on a pretty standard and pretty robust growth rate. The performance for calendar year 2024, you can see the number of trips up upper left-hand side there is, and we had a little bit of a dip when schools start going out. We always dip down a little bit, which is always good for the team, gives us a little time to recalibrate, time to catch up on the maintenance issues. But just next to that, adjacent, you can see at 93% in June, the on-time performance is on a very good trend there. And then what we like to do, we always break out the types of trips that we are providing, employment, dialysis, cancer, recreational education, the medical. If you were to really though take the dialysis / cancer trips and the medical trips, add those together, you could see really healthcare is one of the major providers for the program that we provide. As far as customer service activity, again, highlighted in June, the average speed of answer was 3 minutes and 18 seconds. It's just a hair above our goal of 3 minutes, and we really want to get there. 55 calls, again, high volume, a lot of calls per person. Imagine yourselves taking 55 calls per day. Now, Grant, I'm sure we all have had those days where we felt like we answered 55 calls in a day. But the better story, if you will, is also the 87.4% of all calls were answered. And that's one of the highest that we've had in the last 6 months. So the credit goes to our customer service manager, Lindy. He's doing a heck of a job. I think you've all met him in the past. The team is doing extraordinary. They really have been focused on trying to answer those phones as quickly as they possibly can, even with some shortages in manpower and, you know, people move on to other jobs, but they've done a really good job. And from the information I get on a daily basis, they're continuing that trend. So credit to them. Now this is a new chart. And this is what we showed the Quality Assurance Task Force and had a lot of conversation, which was good. We have two sources of funding for our TD program here. Obviously, the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantage, the Trip and Equipment Grant provides the majority, or I shouldn't say the majority, it provides funding, but the majority of the funding still comes from the local funding partners, Orange County, Seminole County, Osceola County, and all the cities that come, and that's us. We're paying for this. So you can see, just as an example, which I'll show in a graph form here in a bit, the May 2024 invoice. We were reimbursed $283,672 out of the total $776,757 that incurred in providing the TD service. And in graph form, which is a little bit easier to kind of talk to, you can see the green shorter stack there is the Trip and Equipment Grant. That's the monthly allocation. And based on the demand of trips, as in May, it was 15,289. That was the total trips. And if you recall, we go by and what we're able to invoice is the trip cost that you all approved a couple months ago, or the last time I think we got together. That's what we submitted. So it's that cost per trip for the ambulatory and wheelchair. And that's what we put into the invoice. And then you can see what the reimbursement is. So there's quite a delta there. Obviously, we don't want to stop the service, not going to, but we're showing you that, you know, it's the gratitude and the graciousness, if you will, and the taxpayers that are making this all work. So we do appreciate it. And so, you know, it's like we want to thank a vet. We need to thank a taxpayer too, because there's a lot of people that are depending on this program, and God bless them all for, you know, and I want to show what they're doing for us. So hopefully that'll have the impact that we think it will. So as far as opportunities, we got new paratransit vehicles coming right now on order. We have 57 new vehicles. They should be starting to arrive the end of this month. If not, they'll start coming in the first part of September. And then every month we're going to continue to get a few more and a few more. By the end of the year, we are hoping we'll have all 57. We also are working on ordering some additional vehicles on top of that. There's a huge backlog in all the manufacturing facilities. So we've tried to split between two different manufacturers on the vehicles to see if we can speed things up. But there's just a great demand in the state of Florida and all over for these types of vehicles, because there was a long time that we couldn't order vehicles. Excuse me. So anyways, we're going to be very aggressive with this, probably not only this year, but into next year and most likely the year after, because we just have an aging fleet. We need to purge those very old vehicles out because they cost too much to maintain. They're a struggle. They break down too often, and they're just noisy and they rattle and things like that. And it's time for a newer fleet. Call center, it says changes, but now that we've had the TDSP officially approved, we are going to, as we talked about in the past, take the TD trips, instead of just being a 24-hour in advance, we're not going to go out and be consistent with the ADA program and go out to 7 days that you can make your reservation. So we are working on an internal plan right now on how long that will take so we can communicate that, get all our publications and everything all in alignment. And then we can start actually taking reservations up to 7 days in advance for TD trips. And then the funding, we talked about that. That's always an opportunity, looking for other ways to go after grants. Innovation grants are out there, and we have to see how they can apply to us coming from the state of Florida. So in summary, still robust trip demand, on-time performance is good, and we're really happy with that. It's better than it has been in a long, long time. Vehicle procurement is a major priority for all of us because we know that you as the riding public, you want to sit in a comfortable vehicle, needs to be a little quieter, and you don't need to be riding in something that's 6, 7, 8 years old. Have an aggressive maintenance program that's ongoing right now. And in fact, as we've just gone through an FDOT review, and we're looking at a lot of our policies and procedures just to improve our processes, and that's coming along. Still going to focus on the call center, and I think with the TD, allowing TD trips to be reserved up to 7 days is also going to help with some of the demand for having to make that call the next day. And if you miss it, then you kind of got messed up. At least you got another opportunity the next day to make that call, and you can still kind of plan 48 hours out in advance. And so we're just kind of waiting for the new rules and regulations to come down and be defined for us to see what that does. I know there's a lot of new reporting that is going to be required by these new regulations. We're a little concerned about that because, you know, you just have so many staff, and just one more report is one more report and one more report. And next thing you know, you're doing a lot of reports and you're not doing the real business. So a bit concerned about that one. So, but we'll see where it goes. So I hope they have the best intentions in front of them. So with that, this is what we did for APTA. Be more than happy to do it for this board and have a tour over there. And we were glad we had the opportunity for the Quality Assurance Task Force to join us. And so we'd love to have you guys at some point in the future. But with that, I'll close with any questions you might all have.
Norm, thank you. I did want to ask, you discussed a shortfall, significant. What happens if that remains?
Well, that means the counties are the ones that then pick up the tab.
I know our county contributes
Yes.
heavily,
Yes.
you know, and then we just gave an additional robust amount to links.
Yes.
So is that helping compensate?
It always does, yes. But I mean, it's just, again, it's just whether it comes from the state or from the local governments. It just kind of shows the actual trip and equipment grant does not pay for everything that we provide here at Links as far as the TD program.
Virginia, we may have to start preparing legislative session already. And also, Norm, this question came up recently to me when I was in a meeting. The drivers, how much training do they receive to assist patients or individuals with autism or anything on the spectrum?
That's a good question. They are not trained medically, okay? And obviously they can't ask what is the condition of the client. They don't know. I mean, they have an extensive training program that they go through to assist clients from the door to get them into the vehicle, get them properly secured. But individual training in regards to autism or anything of that sort?
Certainly, you want to know?
Sure.
I hope you guys don't mind that I asked this. This has come up.
I mean, there's obviously sensitivity, but
And
the
the
operator
reason why-
doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily know what.
I had a community meeting with Sheriff Mina, and Sheriff's Office has diligently very much worked on this. They've now got even stickers, but they're trained to not think that everyone is aggressive. Because there's, you know, autism is not one, it's a spectrum.
Sure.
And this actually came up at the county commission this week, and then it came up last night at my community event with the sheriff, who was talking about what they're doing. So I would love to have some feedback, and mind you, this is not an attack, this is how can we help, okay?
Yeah, I love that. You know, we've already partnered with Lighthouse for the Blind Community. We'll be reaching out and getting dialysis involved, epilepsy involved. Mr. Milia has always been a big resource to teach and educate autism. You know, we always be careful with HIPAA, what we ask, what we can ask, and we train that a lot, but as many people as we can get involved in the process. To set up our drivers for success and the frontline staff, we're gonna do it because it just helps the whole experience over and over. So whatever help we can get, we're wide open for that and be a part of it.
Right. I would like to, in the future, have the board consider a conversation about this because everyone is being very proactive. Like I said, law enforcement, fire, because we know it's out there. And we don't want to put your drivers in danger, but we don't want to put our passengers in danger. And I would love to help champion that because I think we have to be, you know, we talk about ADA, it's just not the physical part. So I would love to look at that. And then just Norm, thank you.
Thank you.
Norm, how are Link's regular bus drivers? Or is there any comprehensive training or at least information to assist those drivers?
They do go through training, not specific as much, but there is sensitivity training and customer care training. And that is something with a new training department that has come into the operations world that they are focused on. So more and more of that same type of activity is happening on the fixed route side too.
So we hopefully can also be purposeful in that
So
because
it'd be
every
purposeful.
time you guys come and we've talked about this, is the goal is to try to curb costs is if somebody's able to go on a Lynx bus, to be able to go on a Lynx bus. But this is also a disability.
Well, it's
So-
also good for the operators too, because there's a de-escalation that can happen if you have a little understanding as to what may happen. Maybe a loud voice is not necessarily something in aggression, it's just a reaction. And so, yes, definitely it's good for all.
No, and there's noise sensitivity. I mean, there's
Right.
just so many, I mean, we could go on. So I would love one day, I'm sorry, Virginia, you said? Oh, yes, Miss Baldwin, just one last moment. Well, I would love for us to have a real comprehensive discussion on this, but Miss Baldwin, you're recognized.
The only caution I would give is, as the two gentlemen have said, in order for us to accommodate riders who live with autism, it has to be on their profile. They have to let us know, just as we tell them we are legally blind or hearing impaired. If no one indicates that their rider has autism, then we don't know. Okay, my other question for Norm is, Norm, the rollout for the TD riders being able to reserve 7 days in advance. Do you think this might happen before our public hearing in November? When do you think it will occur?
Let me look at that. We'll make that as a goal, but I don't want to make that promise right now and commit something I can't adhere to. So
I would hate for us to come back in January and still not have this done, so that's.
we want to get it done because this is good for us as it is for the client. So, yeah, we want to get it, but we want to do it right also.
Maybe, Commissioner Uribe, that training needs to not only be for the Link staff, but even training for our board members.
I think that
I
would be
think that
great.
might be helpful as well,
Yes.
but they have to let us know.
Okay, I do, Norm, as a follow-up question, Ms. Baldwin, has anyone ever identified when they become writers of that sort? Because you know, let's be honest, it's becoming more open. People are discussing it. There's a reason why Orange County is actually heading to the Pentagon, not Orange County, Sheriff's Office is heading to the Pentagon to get an award for their proactiveness on a national level, because it's happening. And the last thing they want to do is arrest someone who has a disability. So curious, is anyone identifying?
If there are parameters, not so much as a diagnosis, as much as a parameter such as do not leave unattended, then that does get into the file. So we make sure that the operator knows that this individual cannot be left unattended. The reason why they may not be aware of. So we got a fine line we have to work and
Okay,
walk,
well-
because we don't, as Joey said, we don't want to violate any HIPAA
Right,
regulations.
no, I
But,
know.
right,
And I mean, even the sheriff's office, they have people who have to willingly identify.
true.
I would love to follow up with you and
Let's
be
do it.
proactive with you so that we can bring something
And if
back.
there's an agency out there that you know, Commissioner, and,
Mhm.
or any a member of the board that would like to team up with us. Now Lighthouse, they called and said, hey, we used to do this type of training for visually impaired. Can we? And we got them with TransDev and Joey, and he was great, and he got everybody together and they're part of the training program. If there's another organization that like to be a part of that, dialysis, as Joey mentioned, we could do that and have them as part of that training program, so that, again, that sensitivity, we can rate. We may not know it on a particular individual, but at least we can have that sensitivity. So this person coming from a dialysis most likely has just had treatment. Here's what they may be experiencing, and we could have that education and knowledge for.
I will help you because we actually have, I don't know if you know, we actually do Autism Day in Orange County where we make the convention center a safe place. So you have to be able to get in with someone and you can go anywhere and
I
it's
think it'd
made
be
that
very
way.
progressive on our parts to make. this
Yeah,
happen.
and then Nathaniel's Hope does the Make 'em Smile every year and they also, so yeah.
Love
they
to.
just did. Yeah.
Mental health should be included in that as well.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to recognize you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. As program manager for Ticket to Work program, a federal program serving SSI, SSDI recipients through CareerSource, we run into all the different challenges, of course, trying to get the people jobs, get their transportation. I've actually implemented this last program year, just began in July, that before we even sign the person on to be our participant, we're encouraging them to contact links to apply for assistance if they need it for the transportation piece. And I also am aware that there's a training as well that they can possibly go through.
Yes,
Those type of things. I'd love to partner up with you folks.
absolutely.
We have all types of disabilities, physical, mental, emotional, that's, there's no limit to it. And there are so many times that individuals are scared, standoffish about talking about what their disability is, like on applications and things of that sort, because they're afraid they're not going to get hired. Or they're afraid they're not going to get the job or have reasonable accommodation. Reasonable accommodation is something that's wonderful for the employer nowadays because they get tax credits for most of it. And most businesses that have federal contracts are supposed to have 7% or more of their workforce be person with disabilities, veterans, etc. So we're coming into a whole brand new awakening. The first thing we need to do is know ourselves, but I believe then that we need to make sure that the people, the individuals, are aware we are not there to judge you, mistreat you, put you in a special class. We're there to help you through whatever those challenges are. You don't have to tell us. Tell us what you need. So if there's something on the application process or whatever for that piece, and the 7-day out, I'm excited about that. I had a lady that couldn't come to a meeting the other day because she said, I can't schedule but 2 days ahead. And I said, sweetheart, you knew about it last week. I know, but I can only schedule a day or two ahead of
Yeah,
time.
and that's been.
And it's hard to change that mentality.
Yeah, and
But
so
I'm
that's,
with you. I'm gonna help you with that. As soon
Okay.
as you get it going, we're gonna work on that together. I'm glad to help you.
well, and everything, Ms. Hunter, everything that you're talking about is the kind of partnership that we need, because when we talk about going for grants, we get in the weeds sometimes, and I'll talk from, only for Norm. I'm not gonna talk for everybody else. Often you get in 7:30 in the morning, and here's all the things you gotta do until 5:30 at night. And you're not thinking about some of the things that you can or may be available, but having a program like that may fit into a grant opportunity that we could go after that is, would help some of that. It doesn't add anybody new necessarily, but it takes care of covering some of those costs of those trips that we're already trying to provide and maybe expand just a little bit. So yeah, there's some real good.
Norm, thank you for being open as always, and I hope the board does feel that there's some merit into having this discussion to go forward. So that we could have a more robust discussion so that we don't stay till 2:00 today. So is that okay? Is there, I want to make sure I know people are looking, but is there an interest in learning more? Yes, ma'am.
think that in the dialysis community, which is a large part of the trips, every dialysis center has a social worker, and we probably fill out the majority of the applications for links. And we have the ability to write, request things on our subscription requests and trip requests. If there's a special need of a certain person. And I think we do that, and I can certainly, put it out there in the community that we need to be more willing to do, because then it's not a violation of HIPAA. If you
Right.
talk to your patient about what their need is when they're being transported and that's what they want, then there's no violation there.
But even if we could have the whole team sit down with all the social workers and just say, and just have a brainstorming session, that would be invaluable to us too, just to have that, that ability to talk and what do you need and this is what you need to look for, that would go a long ways towards what Commissioner's talking about, just that additional training, so that can then flow down into the staff.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I know it's hard to believe, but we just accomplished a big milestone in 7 minutes. So thank you. I mean, this is huge. We've never talked about it, and it's just been something that our vice chair of our disability board has autism, and and we made it Autism Day at the county. And it's just been more and more a safe conversation. And I think a welcoming and inclusive conversation. So I'm excited about it. Norm, thank you so much. I think you are out of the seat now. All right.
Madam
You
Chair,
made it one more time.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know we're moving on, but I just wanted to say that we are willing to host that meeting here at Metro Plan Orlando to make sure that it happens sooner than later. I did follow that legislation that you mentioned that happened as a result of people going to the legislature this session. And it resulted in those stickers on vehicles or designations on license plates that would trigger to the police officers that there's someone in the car that has autism. And so let's see where we can go with that.
Absolutely.
Based on the conversation that we've
And
had here.
I'd be willing, because I know the sheriff's office and Orange County Corrections, they do it so that we don't misinterpret violence or reaction as a crime. And they're, like I said, they're very proactive on it. So I would even engage a contact with those two. Chief Quinones, who's the head of our corrections, he's very passionate about mental health. So he is extremely proactive on this. So count me in. And if there's anyone, and I hope you will be involved, and you will be involved, because anybody who wants to help us move this forward, let's do it. Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you, everyone. Am I okay to move on now? Okay, wonderful. We're going to move on to our presentation and status reports. Links Community Transportation Coordinator, CTC. But you just did this, didn't you? Are you coming back? No, okay, sorry, you're good. Okay, next we have a presentation by Ms. Gail Holly, who is joining us virtually from Tallahassee. Ms. Holly, are you there? Welcome.
I am here. I am here. Thank you for having me. Hopefully my audio is coming in good. And let's just go ahead and get started. First, I would like to just thank Virginia for just asking me to present this. She heard another presentation, and I just am really excited to be here, because listening to what you guys are saying, I think there's so much synergy with what we're all working on, and that, you guys are into collaboration and being proactive. So I'm really hoping that I can kind of continue to shed light on our, I work for the Florida Department of Transportation, and I manage our aging road user program here in Tallahassee. And one of the things that we really are trying to do is to improve the safety, access, and mobility of our aging population. So I'm really excited to be here and to share this with you. Okay, and of course, we're having some little difficulties. Oh, okay, it's a little slow. So first, I really think it's important that we look back just a second, just take a minute to see where the department comes from as far as our aging road user program, because I think there's a lot of things that people don't understand, these things that you see out on the roadway every single day, whether they're wider pavement markings, advanced warning signs, pedestrian refuge islands, and my personal favorite, advanced warning signs. They all really actually were implemented by the department to help compensate for the natural age-related changes that happen to all of us as we age. And so this was also very research-based, a report coming out of the Transportation Research Board years ago that really addressed this transportation, how we needed to work. So we've been working at this for a very long time, since 2004. So looking ahead, there's so much more delay. I'm not able to do this. Hold on. We practiced too, didn't we? Hey, Lisa, do you want to just take control over again?
Yes, I'll take control back.
Okay,
You
thanks.
just let me know.
Sorry, I know you guys have got a lot to talk about and I have a lot to share, so I just want to make sure that we stay on track. So that's a little piece, if you just want to advance it. Really, the important thing is looking ahead now, where we really needed to take a step back because we were focusing on driving, we were focusing on the roadway improvements, which was great. But when we were looking at our population and how we were advancing, and then also the fact that, you know, how people truly feel about driving, and how that they would lose their sense of freedom if they did stop driving. So it was really very, very important that we take this all into consideration. So on the next slide, we are, I do want to take a second though to talk a little bit about facts about older drivers, and you can just click through this, Lisa. It's just easier to get all the bullets up on there. So I think let's just talk about it in the beginning. I think there is a misnomer about older drivers, but they are very safe drivers. They do self-select driving times when the risk is lower, meaning that they avoid driving at night or during high traffic hours when the risk is higher. They are less likely to engage in risky behaviors such as speeding and drinking and driving, or not wearing their seatbelts, but that's not that they're 100% not doing that, but they were more likely to be injured or killed in a crash. So on the next slide, we're really going to talk a little bit, and you can see how that just shows in our data, right? So this is our aging road user latest data. And what is important here too, when we say aging road users, so we're not just talking about just drivers right here. We're also talking about passengers, pedestrians, bicyclists, all of our vulnerable users. So as you can see, the crash involvement rate for 65 and older is actually the lowest. But when we look at the fatality rate, it is the highest. So it's even showing in the data, and that has to do with the vulnerability that we all have as we get older in age. So what the department did on the next slide is that we reached out because we knew we couldn't focus only on the roadway and we couldn't focus only on drivers. So we reached out to FSU's Pepper Institute on Aging and Public Policy to form a statewide coalition. And so to date, we have 30 member organizations on board, and MPOAC is one of them. But we have representation from all areas, from law enforcement, aging service providers, healthcare. I mean, the gamut, everybody is at the table, but we are all working towards one goal, which is that we want to eliminate fatalities and serious injuries for our aging road users. But we want to do this while maintaining everybody's safe mobility and connection to the community. And that's the piece that is so important. It isn't just about not being able to drive. It's about continuing to get around whether you're driving or not. And so on the next slide, we have, I just want to briefly mention this to you, is that we do have, while we have a great group of people, we have to have a strategic plan. And so on our plan, we actually have, on the previous slide, we have, our plan has got 6 focus areas that kind of aligns with our group. But then also, I wanted you guys to see, I think it's really important because we just don't want to be another plan, right? Because at the community level, especially when you guys are having to implement or hear things, just knowing that our plan actually flows from all these other ones. So we've actually been able to, utilize the Florida Strategic Highway Safety Plan. We're actually called out in the State Plan on Aging and Florida's Transportation Plan, plus working with ARP and their age-friendly networks. So we really are trying to make this as a as holistic as possible and as easy as possible. So on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about how everyone has a responsibility. I think that we have a lot of stakeholders in what we do. We really feel that, like I said, everyone has a responsibility, from older adults and families and caregivers to transportation, communities, local government. And so what we try to do is, through our coalition and our plan, is to develop resources that are going to help and benefit each of those stakeholders. So again, we're all working towards one goal, but we are able to, continue to provide the resources that people actually need. And so just briefly on the next slide, how we're working to meet our goal. Fatalities, 0 fatalities is our goal. But when we are working together, we want to be able to empower and reach our target audience, meaning older adults, through collaboration and positive messaging. We really collaborate with stakeholders. We have a very data-driven approach to spread our message through outreach and education. We reach out and have developed and know that we need to have community partners. We need to have partners like you in the community who are just as passionate, but these are your friends, neighbors, and family, and you know how the connections can be there, so we can ultimately all help older adults remain safe, active, independent, and connected to their communities, even beyond the driver's seat. All right, so it wouldn't be a DOT plan if on the next slide, if I just talk a little bit about data, just so you guys get an understanding of, really how it is a data-driven plan. But we do our priority counties a little bit differently, and you'll notice right away that both Orange and Osceola, you guys are two of our urban priority counties. But what we try to do is we don't just look at the number of fatalities and serious injuries for that population. We also compare it to the population. So that's why you're going to see, while you guys are, still in the lower band of the population, you still are a priority county because of where you are with the number of crashes based on that population. So that's just, something I wanted to just point out a little bit, that but then Seminole, you're not, but that doesn't mean that we aren't, using resources, trying to reach everybody and, truly make a difference. But again, this is something that we look at it a little bit differently that I wanted to share. So our ultimate goal is 0 fatalities, but how do we do this? It really is through promoting mobility independence through outreach and education. So one of the things, and this is that empowering message that we talked about, is that we really sat down and created a very anti-ageist message to really help everybody become more aware of these natural changes that happen to all of us. There is no clear-cut age that this happens to, but we really want to make sure that we develop these 3 keys to safe mobility. And first is to be able to understand the impact that aging has on driving, to be more proactive about your safe driving skills, but then also plan for a safe transition. So on the next slide, another one of our goals is that we really want to be able, and this is where I think there's such a strong tie into the work that you guys are doing, is this importance about maintaining mobility independence. What we mean by that is that we want people to, not solely be able to rely on a car. It means to have options so that people can continue to get around their communities, using all different types of modes, and being able to, again, get to the places not only that they need to go, but that they want to go. So this safe access is something that truly drives us in a lot of the materials that we do. So I'm just briefly going to go over with you some of these resources that are available to you right now. I do know that I am coming back, I think, in November for the public meeting to share some of these resources, which will really be cool with the public. So I think that's going to be helpful. But on the next slide, what we've done too is we've created this guidebook that encompasses all those keys, right? To help people truly understand all of them, that they can actually know how to answer all their questions on what happens to all of us as we age. But then we also wanted to make sure that they're connected to state and county resources. So we make sure that we actually go in and show them who their area agency aging is, driver licensing, and also their CTCs. And then ultimately the goal is that we want people to create their own transportation plan, to look at the places that, there's worksheets in there to know where is it that you need to go and what are the different options for you to get there. So that's something that's truly important. It's available in all these different ways. We're really trying to make sure that everybody does truly have a plan in place. So on the next slide, we also have educational materials because we know that, using other options is important. And the thing that we've learned about older adults is that really that being able to understand how to use these modes to answer questions. So we truly try to create this whole series so that we developed it using feedback that we got from older adults on how to safely use these options. So this is just a series that we have that I feel is really important to answer some of those questions to get more people comfortable using those modes. And then the next resource I just wanted to mention is, that we are truly connected with this livable communities, age-friendly. I do know Orange County is committed to age-friendly, the city of Orlando and also the city of Longwood. So what is really important is for people to truly understand how you can get around in your community. And this checklist is a great way to get you to personally assess your own community, just to answer those little questions on how you can get to and from. And I do think it's important to go back again. This is all vulnerable populations. This isn't just age related, but it is making sure that you have the access to be able to get to and from, wherever it is that you need to go. And then another resource that we have that kind of dovetails a little bit on your conversation about autism, we've really been partnering more and being able to provide information to transit providers and the public on more of those dementia-friendly transportation options. So to answer those questions so you can get a better understanding of, maybe someone, you might not know, again, you say you don't know when someone boards what medical issues that they might have, but this is really a good idea to get people to understand from the dementia perspective on the types of, how to interact and to really how to help people so they can continue to get around. And this dovetails really nicely if a community is part of the Dementia Care and Cure Initiative, which is done by the Department of Elder Affairs. So again, there's that kind of a really strong hold of collaboration. All right, so the next slide is this section really is, again, we can't reach zero alone. And so I'm going to share just a few resources with you. First is that we really encourage people to become community partners. I do know that MetroPlan Orlando is a community partner. Marianne Horn is a community partner, and then there's a few others in your area as well. But this was a way for us, if we develop materials on the state level through our coalition, that we can actually push them out and make them available to you guys. And so to have available for events that you're doing, that we don't necessarily have to be there, but then to kind of connect the resources. And I think it's really is a mutually beneficial relationship, because then you guys have access to materials and information that you don't have to create. And then it's really this really strong way that we can all work together to engage and educate older adults. All right, and then this next one I think is really important to talk about. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Find a Ride Florida, but this is a resource that we developed through the University of Florida. And it is a transportation database. And what we've done is really kind of tried to make it really simple for people to understand what is available in their community. So on the left-hand side, you would simply fill out where it is that you're going and answer some other questions. And keep in mind, again, this could be used by anybody. We've developed it through the program, but it's a great resource for everyone. And then when you put in where your destination, you click through and you get these results, right? And so we've really tried to make sure that we highlight, again, your public transit, that's going to be number one. And we always highlight the CTC. And if there's any travel training available, we really feel that's important. We really want to be able to provide the public with knowing what else is out there. So again, maybe not just, they could have services that are available to them. So it's not even where they would, need to utilize the paratransit services in your community. It could help ease the calls and the info. But this is just something that we really need to work together more on. I get a lot of phone calls from the public, a lot of people not aware of what their services are. And so we've even have on YouTube, we've created some really simple videos to help people, even providers, anybody who's taking a call, instead of calling us, just to work through it and to really try to help people. We really use this a lot with, really promote it a lot in our outreach and education, because we really feel it's just a way to make more people aware of what's options are out there. And I don't think that they are aware. So it's something that we could use some additional help in getting that message out. All right. So the last thing here too, just a resource, is really, it asks that you kind of engage with us on social media. It's low hanging fruit, but it really holds so much. We use this as a way to really educate on all the components. I mean, I've really haven't been able to touch on everything that we do, but it is a lot. And so we really want to just at this point be able to just keep sharing the message. Having consistent messaging and resources are gonna be able to help older adults and anybody looking for transportation, or to be able to safely transition when they need to. So again, it's just low-hanging fruit that we could really use some help with, that you guys could help. All right, and then there was one more, and this to me is really important, because one of the things we say is that we are not going to ask older adults or anybody to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves. So we really, in every presentation, no matter who we're talking to, we really encourage everybody to challenge yourself to explore other options. Start looking around. You could start by looking at Find a Ride and seeing, where else can I, what else is available in my community for me? Or just start using public transit, walking, biking even more. A lot of the materials that I mentioned, that series that we have available, we also do a lot of workshops. We're getting ready to do, we have a Safe Walking for Life workshop, or a Safe Transit, because we really find that sometimes people aren't using the services because they really just want that kind of walkthrough, that really kind of answer my questions, because they're just, to take away that scary, so that maybe if you practice using it before you need it, it's going to really help in the long run. So one of the things that we have that you guys, I'm sure, are aware of, but Mobility Week is something that the department has been promoting for a few years now. And this year's dates, it's in October. I think that's supposed to be the 25th through November 2nd. And it's really a way, if you want to do different events, distribute materials, however you want to do it, it's a great resource to tap into, and really just to think about how we can actually be helping people use different services more. All right, and so I'm just going to leave you on the last slide, is just thank you for your attention. I'm sorry about the tech issues. Every time I think I get it, Zoom messes me up each time. But I really just want to leave with this, is that really it is this great opportunity to work together. We're really not about making things harder. We're really trying to connect the dots. And we just really feel there's so much synergy with everything that we're all working on, so that we can ultimately help people get to and from the places they need and want to go. So thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Appreciate that insightful presentation. I did have a question, and I'm going to open it up. I understand where you guys still talk about, getting people email and web, but what we're still consistently seeing is there is a I hear all the time, I don't do email. Okay. And I think we're seeing more of a gathering to social media, but it's
Mhm.
age-related social media. And because I'm in the old ladies group too, like Facebook tends to be much more happening than TikTok and Instagram and Twitter or whatever it's called nowadays. And so, and then, what you constantly see is people connect with pictures, not so much
Mhm.
words,
Exactly.
with that feeling that they get. And I wonder, and I saw some great pictures, but I wonder, are you guys kind of adding that to your way of communicating? Because I always hear people say, and we all know this, a picture says 1,000 words. Even there's 1,000 words on the page, people will look at the picture and assume what they want out of that message instead of just reading what it should be. And that's the world we live in today. So I'm just curious. And then also, there's people like me who have aging parents that you want to communicate with. So I have my dad's 84, and every time he lives in Miami, every time he gets on the turnpike, all of us in the family take a breath. And because of reality, he gets sleepy. So we know he pulls over and has his coffee and has to go potty and all these things that are real. It's real that we're dealing with. And so I just wonder, when you do your messaging and marketing, are you talking to people who have grandparents, people who have aging parents, to really see all the different communicating factors and how you do this in a way that we're sensitive? Because there's nothing worse than telling my dad, we don't think you should drive, right? My dad really,
Yeah.
it's almost like his personal, I can drive. I drove you when you were a little girl and I'm still driving. But we're concerned for my dad, that it's that concern of what you talk about. So just curious, if that's part of, and I trust me, I love what you're doing and this is great. And I'm glad that you're doing it and it's part of the Target Zero, but I'm going to open it up to everyone on this board, but this was just me as I listened to you when I was thinking about my dad. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where this conversation is coming from for me in my comments.
Right. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. And I tailored this presentation as a first time talking to you guys. So it is kind of hard, to take it through in 10 minutes. So first of all, when I was talking about our stakeholders, we have tons of resources for families and caregivers. We have materials that again, all of our materials answer questions. Like if our whole resource center is designed to, really help you figure this out on your own. But no matter if you're a family caregiver or an individual. And I think it's important to know that we also, that's why we have print materials, because we know that this group needs print materials. And then also trying to reach all the different age groups through social media. We have developed and feel very strongly, we have a lot of graphics that we use. And especially for our engineering piece, we have created graphics to visually walk you through things like roundabouts and flashing yellow arrows. So we really try to make sure that message is clear. And just an example, the move over law, that 65 and older is actually the one group that has the highest number of citations. And so realizing that, do people truly understand that is, what we're supposed to do there? So we actually have created graphics to, and all of our educational materials, I should have said too, is based on human factors research, right? So we've learned how to talk to everybody. And if you look at it from the perspective of when I talked about what was out there on the roadway and how it was done for older adults, but it helps everyone, that's truly what we're trying to do with education as well. And this message, to make sure that, we're consistently saying the same thing. So, we have tons of resources to reach everybody, and done in a different kind of way. So it's just, sharing it all is very difficult, but having a consistent message is what's helped us with the keys. It doesn't matter who we're talking to, it's all the same.
Thank you very much. And just thank you for listening to the feedback. I do want to recognize, yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is
Cheryl.
Cheryl Stone, and I represent the elderly on the board because I'm elderly now. And surprise, it was like last week, I went, oh gee, that happened to me. But anyway, how can a person who is struggling to find the transportation they need for different things in their life, not just doctor's appointments and things like that. Most of us live in neighborhoods where you go to the same hairdresser, you go to the same grocery store, maybe a church or something, and most things are only a mile or two away. And this is a very interesting presentation that you gave, but is there one centralized website or place where we could promote getting information on alternative types of transportation or groups of transportation? Because it's very comprehensive, but I've
It's a
never heard
lot.
of it
No,
before.
and I think a lot of it is because is that misnomer because it is talking about age. Like we joke around, it's like it's just something that is, very uncomfortable. So what we're trying to do is just make it a very normal thing. I think if you go back and I know our guide, so that is really the one-stop shop. We also have a website too, but the guide really truly walks you through to first understand what's happening and will happen to all of us, whether it's vision changes. I mean, I started wearing glasses in 4th grade. Vision is so much needed for driving. But going through the guide and then that last piece, that plan piece is the most important piece because it's talking about having a transportation plan in place. So that way you in our in the workbook, it actually walks you through where you write down where are the places that you need to want to go. Like you said, you go to a hairdresser at this point in time, and it's first identifying everything that you truly what means something to you, beyond just medical, but what's important to you, and then figuring out where to do it. This is a great idea because when I do come back in November, like to the public, in the presentation, we'll start putting these worksheets. We'll focus a lot on that piece because I do think it's important to understand that figuring out what's important to you to go, and then looking at that second piece, going to find a ride, or then even just figuring out with neighbors and friends, or if that's where families can come in, to not put the burden on families, but it could be maybe one trip could help. And so it's really kind of creating that plan and having it in place. So,
And
yeah.
Madam Chair, that was the part of her presentation that I found that would be most interesting to the public. And so we invited her here to give an overview of the program itself, but then to whittle down for the public because, we have this eligibility process through Access Links. And what if someone is not eligible? What are those other options that are available? And where can they find that information? So that was the purpose. And we'll tailor the presentation for the public to focus in on that because the website is you saw a screenshot of it, but it's very useful to a person to be able to go in and put in where they live and find out what those other options are. And so Gail, thank you so much for your very insightful presentation. And we'll talk more with you about how we can tailor this for November.
Sounds great.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Holly. We appreciate you taking the time today.
No problem. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Have a great day. We're going to move on to our general information that's in the packets for everyone's awareness. Ms. Whittington, is there anything in specific that you think we need to address or show? It's up to everyone. It's in your information. I also want to go over upcoming meetings, events of interest. Metro Plan Orlando Board meeting will be Wednesday, September 11th at 9 a.m. And the FPTA CTD Annual Conference and Expo, September 22nd through the 24th in West Palm. Please save the date for 2024 Mobility Week. It will be October 27th through November 2nd. It's in your tab 7. The Quality Assurance Task Force meeting will take place on Tuesday, October 29th at 10 a.m. And the annual Transportation Disadvantaged Public Workshop will be Thursday, November 14th at 10 a.m. at the offsite location, and we're going to get confirmation on that, but tentatively, we're hoping that Heart of West Lakes Wellness Center will be our spot. I do want to offer Ms. Whittington, Orange County has a very, very good speaker adjustable system, and if there's any way that I can assist with that, where they're portables, will people be able to talk almost like this in a very, very good way? I don't know if it's allowed, but I'm happy to ask. You know, they
Oh,
say you can't
please.
get anything if you don't ask.
That's
So
Right, thank you
so
so
I'm gonna
much.
try, because I think it'd be really important to be somewhere that's easily accessible. So if you want to connect with my aide, I will do the request so we can try to save financially to make that happen.
Will do.
I think one of the criticisms we got a couple years ago was the inability to be accessible to the people who need to have access to it. So I will do my best. I can't guarantee anything, but I will try.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And then the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board will also meet Tuesday. Oh, that's the same thing. Alrighty. And are there any member comments today from anyone? And again, I want to thank everyone for just being involved and engaged in this conversation and us creating and putting together some things to move forward to make us better and to represent our community better. But I just want to acknowledge anything additional that anybody wants to say. Yes. Yes, sir. Hi. Can you hit your button?
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Oh, that was on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on. Sorry, my bad. Sorry.
So the only question I did have, and there's been a lot of conversations today about driver safety. I come originally from the state of Maryland, and in Maryland, there is a requirement if you're between the ages, at least when I was growing up, between the ages of 15 and 25 to have some form of formal driving education and a certification from it, whether it be from a school, if your school so offers it, or from a driver school in order to get your license. I saw on the presentation that the numbers for 15 and 19 and the numbers from 20, I believe, to 49 are very high. And I was just wondering if there was ever any consideration into implementing the requirements for when you first get your license here in Florida to have some form of formal driver education.
That's a loaded question. And Mayor Bates is just making a comment. That's tough. That's way above our pay grade. Yes, wishful, but I don't know if we'll see anything like that here in Florida. I think that we all can agree. So, and because we're all scared to touch it, so we're just gonna acknowledge your comment and, I mean, it's just the safest route to say we don't foresee it happening. I mean, just if you look historically, it's never been in that direction. But thank you for acknowledging it and seeing it. No, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate you being here and being engaged. Any other comments? All right, so I'm going to move on to the second opportunity for public comment. Comments heard in the general nature are accepted at this time. Again, before I read all of this, I'm going to ask Miss Lisa, do we have anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak?
No, Madam Chair, we do not have any hands on the virtual side, and I have not received any requests to speak.
Great, and I'm going to skip the rules of what you're supposed to do if you are here. And this concludes the business that we have today. Our next TDLCB meeting is November 14th at 10 a.m. Location to be confirmed, fingers crossed. If there's no other business to come before us today, thank you for joining us. We stand adjourned. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good meeting.